So earlier today, Vajradevi was talking about bringing awareness to the defilements, to craving and aversion, to the kleshas, we can call them. And in the process of doing this, we make those kleshas, we make them an object of awareness, an object of mind. And we had that quote from Sangharajta earlier about how it is when we make, we can almost make those contents of consciousness into an object of consciousness. Vajradevi is using the language of bringing them in front of the lens, I think. So it's as if what we can do is in bringing these usually unseen aspects of our experience forward in front of the lens, we sort of take them out of the observing mind and make them an object of observation. So we're slowly sort of emptying the observing mind of klesha. And what we can do is intuit that the observing mind, it's as if it has a different nature to its objects. One image for this is it's like water and oil. Water and oil don't mix, but if you shake them up together, they can sort of turn into an emulsion. And then if you leave it to settle out, then they'll separate. And it's as if most of the time we're walking around in this state of the mind all shook up. It's like our awareness, observing mind, to use that language, and the contents of the observing mind are all mushed up. We don't notice the difference. But through doing the kind of practice that we've started on today, we start to let them settle out. We start to bring the contents of consciousness separated out from the observing mind. And of course, we can't observe the observing mind. That doesn't quite work, but we can notice that this is happening. We can notice that awareness is present and is able to make, for example, the frustration with our experience, we can make that into an object. We can make wanting something else to happen, we can make that into an object. And as that happens, it's like this sort of separating out is happening. And we can start to kind of tune in to the qualities of the awareness, of the observing mind. We can give more attention to the observing mind itself rather than the objects of awareness. So Vajradevi has a reading, which I shall ask her to read, and I'll hold the microphone. This is a reading from Sada Utejaniya.
In Vipassana, or clear seeing, you must remember that there are always the knowing and the known minds. The knowing is the awareness mind, the known is the object's mind. So the known minds, the rest of the mind, don't have to be calm. They don't have to be peaceful. They can be angry, raging, all that going on. All that needs to be steady is the knowing, the awareness. That's the only steadiness that you need, the steadiness of the watching mind. The rest of the minds can do what they want. And what samadhi does is calm down all the rest of the minds. Samadhi calms down everything else that the mind is experiencing, all the happening minds. But to calm the watching, knowing mind, only right view is necessary. Right view stabilizes the mind, stabilizes awareness. And as long as you're able to watch, it's okay. It's enough to be able to observe the storm.
Right. So to use that language of the knowing mind and the known minds, the knowing mind is like this observing mind. And as we start to tune into that more and more, we can intuit some of its qualities. So Vajradevi was earlier talking about how metta was threaded through awareness. So metta is one of these qualities of the observing mind, of the knowing mind. It's not separate. It's not like a different thing. It is a natural quality of this mind of awareness, mind of knowing. And as we tune into the way that the objects of mind, all the happenings, are of a different nature to this aware mind, so we can feel that in a way we can intuit that the knowing mind, this observing mind, in a sense has never been defiled. Although it looked like it was all mushed up with klesha, it's like the klesha and the aware mind were never actually, the aware mind was never actually defiled. This is one helpful view. We don't have to take it as kind of doctrine, but it's a helpful view to think that the aware mind doesn't actually get tainted by its objects. So it's got a kind of purity about it. And this practice that Vajradevi is talking about is about sort of this purifying the mind through emptying the observing mind of klesha, which doesn't mean to say, as the reading just said, it doesn't mean to say that we have to calm down the klesha. It just means that we have to make it the object of awareness. And when you do that, then the observing mind, we can recognize its purity. It also has qualities, this observing mind, of brightness, of clarity. It's the very way that it illuminates all of our experience, sometimes called luminous. And we can recognize a kind of wisdom about it, a kind of intelligence about it, a natural intelligence. And we can even, as we tune into it, we can even recognize about this observing mind as it manifests stronger and stronger. It's like it's not a kind of cold, impersonal thing or light. It's got a quality of presence, a living presence. And this living presence can take a kind of visionary form. This is what's happened to practitioners over the years. It takes on a visionary form. And one way in which it can manifest in visionary form is this figure of Vajrasattva that we have here. So I'm sure many of you will have met Vajrasattva one way or another, as I'll briefly talk about the image. So he is radiant white in colour, the colour of sunlight on freshly fallen snow. And you could say that that represents a few things. You could say it represents this quality of purity, primordial purity he's often said to represent. And it also represents this luminous, bright, clear quality of the knowing mind. And he holds in his right hand, you can see my right hand, can you? To his heart, he holds a Vajra. Here's Vajradevi's marvelous Vajra. So this is what he holds to his heart, a golden Vajra, which symbolizes, in this case, compassion. Compassion, or this warm, caring quality of the knowing mind. And in his left hand, he holds a Vajra bal, which symbolizes wisdom, the knowing, wise quality. So he's a figure from the Vajrayana. But there are very interesting correspondences with early Buddhist symbolism, which I won't go into, but anyway, it's there. It's not a completely different world. So this is a way of connecting imaginatively to the observing mind, the knowing quality of mind. Sangha came up with the image that it's as if our usual mind, our egoic mind, our small mind, is held in a much larger chamber, in a vast, vast chamber. And it's as if there's a one-way mirror. And outside this chamber, there's, let us say, Vajrasattva. He can see in. It's like he can see in. He represents the big mind, the vast mind, and he can sort of see our everyday kind of contortions and worries and concerns and claustrophobia. And he longs for us to just be able to look out and see the vastness of big mind. He longs for us to recognize our Vajrasattva nature. And so by doing puja to him, by visualizing him, and feeling into the kind of practice that Vajradevi is talking about, it gives us a way of opening out into big mind, to use that language. The mind that's unconstrained by our limited conceptions of ourselves. So let's spend the rest of the evening looking up and recognizing big mind, recognizing Vajrasattva at work.